Not the TV guide.
Not the TV guide.
Amanda, what are we doing today?
We're doing not the TV guide.
Beth, what is not the TV guide?
It's a podcast where we get together and we talk about the films and TV that we've been enjoying.
Yeah, now, people might notice we're minus Grant today again, and that basically means we're not doing. Yes, Grant's not here because he doesn't like this program very much. Amanda, does he? Is that true? Is Grant a bit
He gets
scared of us?
scared. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we're doing that endless, literally feeling like endless Supernatural, the full seasons review. Now, if people have caught episodes part one and part two to be the amount of seasons, what did seasons 1 to 8? Pardon me, but yeah, we're now moving on to. We'll see how many parts we cover in part three, but we've got 7 seasons to go. Now, obviously, if people are wondering, we're going to do season 9 now. And yes, season 9 was originally came out on the premiered on 8th of October 2013 and concluded on May the 20th, 2014. And this was the second season with Jeremy Carver as showrunner. Now, obviously, the season itself was Sam and Dean as he tried to stop the revised Abaddon, a Knight of Hell, and have to use a cursed object called the Thirst Blade to do so. Meanwhile, Metatron closes off heaven and causes the angels to fall, and Cassiel will do stop at nothing to stop him. Now, I'm going to go straight to Beth this time here now, Beth, because you've seen this more recently than me and Amanda have. Obviously, carrying this straight on then, how did the season compare to seasons 7 and 8 for you?
I enjoyed it a lot more than season 7, because I wasn't a massive fan of season 7, but I didn't think it was quite as good as series 8. I actually really enjoyed series 8. I kind of felt like the show was really gaining momentum again, and then I was kind of series 9 was it was still pretty good. It is still one of my better series, but kind of felt like it started going downhill again a little bit, which was kind of unfortunate because I wanted it to keep gaining momentum after series 8. But yeah, it's still a really good series.
Amanda, what fond memories do you have of season 9?
I always enjoyed it, but I think the further it goes on, it's just got fuzzier and fuzzier because it was good. It just wasn't as good as the earlier seasons. But
No.
my favorite episode was Dog Dean Afternoon.
Okay, and what happened in this episode, Amanda?
For some reason that I can't remember, Dean uses a magic spell to communicate with the dog. I think the dog's a witness to a murder or something. And instead of like whatever it is that he thinks is going to happen, he can understand what the dog's saying.
I'd forgot about this episode completely. Yeah, that does sound a bit like one of the, what's the word? One of the more offbeat episodes, isn't it? Basically that. So
It's such a good episode.
yeah, oh yeah, it's a good choice, Amanda, that one indeed. So okay, Beth, I'm gonna ask you for your favourite episode on this.
I went for Dog Dean Afternoon as well.
Oh,
It
did
was
you? Oh,
so
look at
funny.
that. Dun dun dun.
So
Yeah.
funny. I love it when I love it when Supernatural gets a bit silly. Like they always have these kind of about sort of a few episodes into the series that or like kind of midway through, they always have these kind of comic relief episodes which like aren't really that vital to the overall plot, but they're just some really good episodes. And this one was just so funny because it was essentially, I think he like I'm trying to remember now as well, but I think he basically, yeah, he's trying to communicate with the dog. And this spell ends up making him take on some of the characteristics of a dog. So not only can he like understand what the dog is saying, he also starts behaving like slightly like a dog. So he starts like absent-mindedly fetching a piece of paper when Sam throws it into the rubbish basket and things like that. And then he realizes that he can communicate with not only dogs but like loads of different animals as well. So he starts having an argument with a pigeon And it's the best scene I think I've ever seen in the history of
Brilliant.
television. Because he's this pigeon's like sat on a lamppost above his car and he's like threatening to poo on the car. And he's like having an argument with this pigeon because he's going, oh, like this pigeon's like, oh yeah, like that's it, go run to mama. And he's like, that's it, you little silly. He's like about to
Brilliant.
shoot this pigeon, and like obviously no one else can hear the pigeon. So Sam's just there like, Dean, like trying to drag him away from like shooting this pigeon, and then it's like so good.
Oh, God, yeah. No, it just, I need to rewatch the episode, John. So I had them out because the trouble is, like, I've seen them all, but sometimes you don't watch them for a bit, you forget what some seasons, so the seasons can be like and stuff like that. Oh, God, that sounds brilliant. Now, people wondering with Supernatural itself, there has been several aborted spin-offs. Now, I've not asked Beth yet what her least favorite episode of season 9 was, but I know what Amanda's was, unfortunately. And Amanda,
It's
what?
Bloodline.
Yeah, now Bloodlines obviously was the aborted spin-off that was attempted to be done from Supernatural in season 9. Now, what notes have you got on this, Amanda?
It was like a sort of mafia type family, but of monsters, and there was like a sort of gang war thing. But I don't know, can't see it working because it's like the main thing about Supernatural is like the family bonds and the brothers and all that, and they just totally missed the point, I think.
Yeah, it was certainly like it. I'm just reading this now, actually. Beth, is this your least favorite episode of season 9 as well?
Yeah, I went for this one as well.
Right.
I know what
Tell
Amanda
us
means.
tell what you think then, and I've got some notes here. I've gone to Nick's one of the website, so I'll go into it more depth.
Yeah, no, I agree with Amanda basically. I think it was just kind of getting too far away from like what it is that makes Supernatural good. Like it's the whole point is that well, I suppose what kind of annoyed me about it a bit was just the fact that kind of the whole point of Supernatural is that like, well, I always got the sense that monsters were supposed to be quite rare in a way, because although obviously we see them every episode because we're following, a pair of brothers that hunt them for a living, so obviously we see monsters every episode. But what you've got to remember about the Supernatural universe is that it's kind of meant to be set in our world, so it's meant to be like the general population. Most people will never encounter a monster. Most people will never encounter something that goes bump in the night, and most of the general population are unaware of monsters and their existence. So the idea behind this episode was that there was an entire city. I can't remember what city it was now, but the entire city is like controlled by various monster families. And there was this whole idea that, there's like a whole kind of monster underground ring, and, it's all like there's the humans are kind of living in the monster city. And I got what they were trying to do. Like I did understand what it was quite a cool idea in some ways, but it almost just felt a bit sort of unnecessary. I was just a bit like, well, why don't we already know about this? If this has been going on the whole time, like why aren't hunters aware that, Chicago or wherever it was is being run by monsters? Why haven't they been driven out already? And it just felt a bit sort of detached from like the rest of the show and what the feel of the rest of the show. And it was a bit like, if you're going to do a spin-off, don't invent this whole other storyline just for a spin-off. Like, do a spin-off about something that people kind of want to know about. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't need to invent this whole other storyline just to create a spin-off. There's plenty of other things that people want to know more about that you could have, I don't know.
No, I agree completely. I can always remember you telling me several times with it, and I want to know what you think is in the second, Beth. You always, Amanda, what was the spin-off you wanted to see in Supernatural? We
I
never
would have
even,
liked to see Cass and Crowley going around solving crimes together.
yeah. That's sort of swung it for me. And I think it swung it for you, Beth, that as well, wasn't it? The CC that, and instead of this
Yeah.
Bloodlines, and it was, yeah, it's quite funny because I don't know what you both think. Was this potentially? I'll ask you this first, Amanda. Was Bloodlines possibly the worst ever supernatural episode for you?
It's definitely in the top 10. I can't say for sure if it was the worst, but it was definitely up there.
Yeah, it's like if people look round, there's quite a few Reddit columns going around saying worst ever supernatural episode. So, and people were saying stuff like, I want to know, I'll ask your opinions in a second, Beth. Like it was where this is what some journalists have been saying. They didn't like the lack of connection to the main characters. There was too much drama, not enough supernatural feel, and it was too soapy.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think that's a good point. Yeah. It's
Amanda, what do you think? Do you agree with
It
that as
felt a
well?
bit like it was trying to be like the originals as well. I think that was around the same time that came out.
Oh, I never saw that. Do you ever watch
yeah.
the originals, Beth? Did you?
Yeah, I was a massive Vampire Diaries fan, so yeah, I loved the originals. But yes, I totally see that actually. Yeah, it's definitely got an originals vibe to it. I didn't even think of that, but that is very true. Yeah.
That's why. And Foxy, henceforth, why we don't like it. So that one. So now, is there anything else either you two want to mention before we get onto the markings?
Not for me, no.
I've got to ask you both, and then when I was going for the casting on this before, and I didn't realise this. Do you two remember Snooky, the actual reality star, actually been in this F season as a Crossroads demon?
Yeah, I do remember you.
Yeah, I was just looking at that and I thought, oh, that's an unusual one. Right, anyway, so again, okay, Beth, what you give this one out of 10 then?
I'm gonna give it a. I'm trying to remember what I gave season 8. I think I gave season 8 like a an 8.5. I'll give this an 8. Um, I think it was a good series. My main criticism would be because I think they do this with quite a lot of series of Supernatural. I think my main criticism would be like not enough focus on the main plot line, which was the kind of the battle going on between the different factions of angels on Earth, which could have been really interesting. They could have done a lot more on showing us the angels adapting to life on Earth, the kind of the factions that are developing between different bands of angels, and you know that they because there was a bit of focus on that as the season went on, and Castiel kind of becoming the leader of one of the angel factions. But I think they could have done a lot more focus on that. Like they tend to sort of sometimes forget what their main plot line is, and branch off from it a bit too much. So I think they could have done more on sticking to the main story. But I think it was a strong season. It was a good season overall.
Amanda.
I'll give it 7.5.
Oh, man, that means and they're following the Not TV guy, that's barely a recommendation. So, ooh. Now, okay, now we're moving straight on now then. Now season nine's out the way. We're going to go straight into season 10. Of course, the 10th season of Supernatural premiered on October the 7th, 2014, and concluded on May the 20th, 2015, with 23 episodes again. And this was the third season with Jeremy Carver as showrunner. In this season, the season follows Sam and Dean as Dean deals with the after effects of using the first blade and becoming a demon. And the brothers try to escape the curse, dealing with a family of murderers. Cain himself. Now, with this, obviously, I should have said this last season. In contrast to the previous season, this was the first season when Mark A. Shepard became a regular cast member. And obviously then I had Misha and Jensen and Jared all again then. And it had like special appearances in this one by Rob Benedict as Chuck and Jim Beaver as Bobby. And yeah, well, quite a few other people there as well. So including a lot of people like Ian, that's been in quite a few again. So, but we'll come on to that shortly. Amanda, tell us about what your memories of season 10 are like.
Okay, so my best episode was Black, and this was when we see Dean as a demon. Even though I'm glad it didn't last longer than it did, it was fun sort of for a few episodes. and then he sort of went back. But I'm not giving spoilers away, even though people should have watched it by now.
Yeah, that was I remember that because that's when he went dressed up in like it almost like it was oh, what was that gangster program with Beth, you'll remember
Oh,
this.
I can't remember it now. Peaky
Peaky
Blinders.
Blinders.
Yeah.
This was when he was in his Peaky Blinders
Yeah.
moment. And I thought I remember that and then the previous season when I watched that, I thought, oh, this is Peaky Blinders territory, this. But yeah, but that was fun actually, that bit, definitely. It showed a very different side to him, and I like that actually, don't you? So which I mean you got the impression on that he actually really enjoys doing that, actually, to
Mm.
be honest with you. So Beth, obviously been the newer fan. What really stuck in your head about season? I was going to say season 9, then season 10.
Um, yeah, so I really liked the Demon Dean storyline as well. I thought that was really interesting because it's kind of like one of Dean's worst fears was becoming a demon. So we kind of and like losing his humanity when he was, going to go to hell. So it was interesting seeing that. I do think I didn't mind the fact that it didn't go on for too long, because it only went on for a couple of episodes, but I did think that it was almost a bit too easy to cure him. Because I know they'd already found the cure for demons by this point because they found it in like series 8 or whatever. But I felt like even though obviously I understand why they didn't keep him as a demon for ages, I did think that they could have made it a bit more difficult to cure him, and I don't know because it just felt like it was a little bit too much of an easy fix. Because I mean, he has died here. Like he is supposed to have died and come back as a demon. So it kind of felt like it was a bit too easy to just kind of, oh, you've taken some potion, you're all right now. So I kind of felt like I would have liked it to be a bit more difficult to cure him. I don't know how they would have done that necessarily, but yeah, it was a good season. For me, I think this is where it kind of started going downhill a little bit though, because it wasn't the overarching plot line of the series wasn't as strong, and didn't really feel as kind of coherent as earlier series. But I definitely did enjoy it more than later series, so there's that. And I thought there was some really nice moments between Sam and Dean. So
Yeah, no, it's good. It's a good point, that indeed. Now, I'm going to ask Amanda next on this. Obviously, if people want to backtrack on the beginning of this season, Cassiel was dying at the beginning of season 10, wasn't he? Now, Amanda, can you remember how you felt about this when you realised at the end of season 9 that Cassiel was dying?
I think he'd already died at least once by then, hadn't he? So it's just like, oh yeah, again, okay then.
Yeah, and you get that. I think you get a stage of something like Supernatural after a while, where don't you like it seems to like they die, they go to heaven, they go to hell, they're back next season sometimes. So it did get a bit ridiculous. Now I didn't realise this till I was double checking it, but episode 200 wasn't it on season 10? And it was
Yeah, that
like,
sounds about right.
yeah, and then like it would be. Like I didn't realize this one actually. It was fan fiction. Was this one was called? When obviously, like you had. Do you both remember this episode?
my favorite
I
episode of
don't
the
off the
series.
top of my head.
Yeah, I thought I remember this one. I thought it was really cheesy, but it was fun. This one here. What happened here, Amanda? I'll give a lot of spoilers away here. Obviously, still fixing going out on hunts. Dean insists that him and Sam look into the disappearance of a teacher in Flint, and they're shocked to discover that the school musical the teacher had been planning to shut down is based on the books they discovered in the fourth season, which have been written about their lives by Chuck. Do you remember it now, Amanda?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We won't give too much spoilers away here, but yeah, this is really funny. This episode. What memories do you have of this episode, Beth? Try not to do too much spoilers, and
Oh, this was my absolute favorite episode. This is one of my favorite episodes of Supernatural ever, to be honest. I love it when the show goes meta. I love it when I just think this is what makes Supernatural one of the best shows that I've ever watched, because I don't know any other show that would be clever enough to have the idea to firstly make make the idea that there was a prophet that is, seeing the detail of the life of the main characters, and that he's writing the book of Dean and Sam, and this is kind of the modern day Bible, and he's the latest prophet because why wouldn't the Bible carry on in modern times? And the latest prophet is an author because he thinks that his visions are stories and that he's imagining, and so that's an absolutely phenomenal piece of like meta storytelling decision making. Then the idea to make there be a convention like there was in series 5, and then in series 10 we get this episode, which is like the idea that a load of schoolgirls have put on a musical about these books, which I just thought was the best idea that anyone has ever had, because I was like, this just spoke to the the episode's called fan fiction, and this just spoke to the fan fiction writer inside all of us, and it was a nod to the fans. I think there was an interview where Jensen kind of said that, it was an episode that was really meant to sort of celebrate the fans, because there's even a moment where they actually talk about Destiel, and he's like, he's watching the actresses that are playing him and Cass, and he's like, why are they standing so close together? And this schoolgirl's like, subtext. And then he just kind of looks directly at the camera as if to say, oh, for God's sake. And it's like, and he's like, he literally looks directly in the camera, and it's just brilliant. Like it's kind of like looking out of the screen and going like, we see you, we hear you, we know what you're writing. Like, it's brilliant. It's so good.
Yeah. No, I remember this episode quite well, actually, honestly. Amanda, I have to ask you about Desiel. I don't know if we covered this in the previous batch of
Yeah, we did, yeah.
episodes. Yeah, fair enough. Well, I'll ask you, people haven't heard parts 1 and 2 then. When did you first hear about Desiel then?
It was pretty much the first season that he was in after he rescued Dean from hell, because he was just all the way he stands so close to him.
It does make people wonder. I think he definitely played up on it. But yes, we'll come on to that more. Now, we have obviously, before we mark it, we haven't touched on the naffest episode of the season. So, Beth, what was your naffest episode of the season? I'm trying to keep off the bad language in this block of episodes tonight. It's not going to work.
So for me, I wouldn't actually say it was a terrible episode, to be fair, but for me, the episode that kind of I thought was a bit naff was I think it was partly let down by coming directly after fan fiction, actually, because fan fiction was such a brilliant episode, and then this was the episode that came after that. I think it was called Ask Jeeves.
Yeah,
And
Ask Jeeves, yeah.
yeah, and it was again, it wasn't my least favorite episode, to be fair, but it was just a bit odd. Like, I didn't really know what they were trying to do with it. It was like kind of a very strange departure from kind of like the normal setup of the show. It was kind of like this very odd, like posh family in a house, and there was some kind of like shapeshifter. It was like Bobby had like left some kind of heirloom to them or something. It was just all, I can't remember exactly what happened, but it was I just remember it being like, my overwhelming memory is of this episode is just cringing at there's a moment in the episode where Sam has to kind of like flirt with these like women in like these kind of 50-year-old like housewives that are kind of like fawning all over him, and he has to kind of pretend to be interested to try and get information out of them. And he's like, there's this scene where he's kind of like cozying up to them on the couch, and like, not that I don't enjoy Sam being tortured, because it is quite funny, but it was just like, it was a bit cringy, I won't lie.
Yeah, now, I'm reading up on this now as we talk to along, and people are clarifying this. Bobby obviously wants to take care of Olivia, who you're referring to, if anything happened to her mother. So obviously after he executed her father. And it ends up ends up killing the girl anyway at the end. No, yeah, so it's a bit odd. It's an odd episode. I'm just reading it now and thought, yeah, I do remember that. Oh. Amanda, is there anything episodes you
Funny enough, I've got the same episode as my worst, just because I thought it felt a bit like a supernatural version of Murder, She Wrote.
Yeah, that's the point. Yeah, it does admit, doesn't it? Yeah, that's the point. Yeah, it's. I'm just reading it, and it's like it's. Yeah, that does a bit of an odd episode. That one. Yeah, yeah. It strikes me. It does. Sometimes you do when your series so long, and like particularly like you both noticed, the episode after that is called "Girls, Girls, Girls," and like you get them an episode.
Oh, that was a good one because
Yeah,
that's when
just
Dean went on a dating app. I remember
yeah. I can see it there. And like people are wondering with this, like, is Dean after Dean discovered his date from a dating app, he's helping demons make deals. Sam and Dean investigated demonic brothel. And that's where Rowena gets her first and kills Roll, the demon in charge, and recruits the hookers as apprentices. And so you find out when the series has been going as long as this, like we just had three in the middle of the season, and then absolutely others going off in different tangents all the time. So weird. Anyway, that's me. So, right. Okay. Have either of you two got anything else you want to talk about this season before we move on?
No,
Okay. Amanda, what are you going to give this season out of 10?
this is another 7.5 for me.
Ooh, ooh. And Beth?
Yeah, I'll give it a 7.5 as well. 7.5.
Yeah, I'm going to answer. When I look at this now, I'm going to actually go and rewatch this Girls, Girls, Girls episode. It looks like looks like it's a lot of fun. I forgot about that one. So,
It was
but
good.
Amanda, would you want to rewatch that one me at a later date?
I'll just rewatch the whole 15 seasons.
You can, right? If people are wondering, Amanda made me do that for about 18 months. And Beth, how long did it take you to go through all 15 seasons?
Oh,
About a year, was it?
about a year, yeah. I mean, I started watching it, let me work this out. Yeah, I started watching it with my housemate in like March 2020, about a year and a half, yeah.
Yeah, I think it does mean there's 15 seasons. You can't watch that amount in a couple of weeks. Right, despite the fact we were trying to get Grant to watch them in about 2 weeks, and oh no, not going to happen. Okay, folks, yeah, let's move on to season 11. Now, oh yeah, I like the poster. The poster is definitely very dark and brooding. And if you look at season 11 poster, now the 11th season of Supernatural premiered on October the 7th, 2015, and concluded on May the 25th, 2016. And this was the fourth and final season with Jeremy Carver as showrunner. And the season follows Sam and Dean, who, after killing Death with his own skeef to get rid of the Mark of Cain, releases an all-powerful creature called the Darkness, who threatens to destroy everything in existence. With this, obviously, it stars again Gerard, Jensen, Mitra, and Mark in the lead roles. Jim Beaver, of course, crops up in a special guest star. And it looks like, am I right in this one? This is the first season where Samantha Smith comes into it as Mary Winchester.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like it's about right that. And we had I didn't realize this. A question for you both now. How many actresses played Amara in this series?
Oh, I don't know. Off the top of my head, I'm going to guess 4 or 5.
What do you reckon, Beth?
Yeah, probably about 4 or 5.
Yeah, there's four. You've got Grace Shinlina as younger Maria, Yamina Lily Ellie Bell as preteen Maria, Samantha Isler as teenager Maria, then obviously Emily Swallow as Maria Dash the Darkness. And true or false question here for you both as well. Was there a young John Winchester in this series?
Oh, I can't remember.
I believe there was,
Yeah,
but it
played.
turned out not to be him.
That's correct. Yes, right. So, yeah, he played the actor is played by Matthew Joseph Cohen, best known for playing young John Winchester and the Archangel Michael in Supernatural as well. That's why. And did we have a young Dean Winchester and young Sam Winchester in this series as well?
Probably they've had
Yeah,
them a
I think
few
so.
times, haven't they? And they had to change actors at one point as well because the original younger ones got too old.
There's a good question for you both, as I didn't realise this. What is the Stranger Things link to season 11 of Supernatural?
I have no idea.
I'm not sure.
Right, I'll find out. I can. There's a character in from an actor in from Supernatural, and I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what he played. I'm going to get the episode up for you if you bear me a second. Right, yeah. Do you two remember an episode called Thin Lizzy?
Yeah.
No.
Finn Wolfhard was in that.
Oh,
Yeah, and Dave does read notes here, me doing my researches. This was his second ever TV role before he was eventually cast as Mike Wheeler in Stranger Things.
interesting.
Anyway, let's move on. So, right, okay, Amanda, what are your memories of this season, season 11
Okay,
first?
so my favorite episode was Just My Imagination. And this is when I think it's Sam's imaginary friend, Sully turns up and somebody's going around killing imaginary friends and he needs help.
Oh, I remember that episode. Yeah, I do remember that one as well. Yeah, that's a really good choice, Amanda, that one. Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah. Like it's some of these episodes I don't always remember. I do remember that one. So yeah, good choice. So okay, Beth, over to you then.
Yeah, that was my favorite episode as well, I think. Well, I was torn between that one and there was also an episode called Baby that was like shot from the perspective of the car, which was quite cool as well. But yeah, I loved Just My Imagination because it reminded me a bit of I'm pretty sure this must be where they've got the idea because I think Dean actually references it at one point in the episode, but it reminded me of Drop Dead Fred. If anyone's watched
Oh,
that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh
Oh,
God,
that
I
yeah.
that's
remember
what I
that.
think.
Yeah.
That's what gave them the idea, like the idea of someone's imaginary friend coming back when they're an adult, and it turns out that imaginary friends are real or whatever, and they're some kind of species that like look after children. And obviously that idea worked really well for Supernatural. The idea that imaginary friends are just kind of another species of monster, but actually this time they're a good monster that kind of looks after children and helps kind of give children happy childhoods. And so I really liked that idea, and the idea that like Sam, despite all of this stuff that he's gone through, like he's kind of had somebody watching over him. I quite like the idea that that he was kind of a child that like needed that guidance. I thought it was good, and I loved Sully. I thought he was so sweet and like it was so funny.
Adorable,
It's
yeah.
such a
Adorable.
nice episode.
Now, I'm going to ask Amanda what Amanda's worst episode was. I've got the feeling this might surprise you now, Beth. Because is this the episode I'm thinking you said you didn't like, Amanda?
Yeah, and it's one that Beth just said that she liked, which is Baby.
I had very feeling you went on Beth, and I thought, shit, I thought, oh, I'm sure now. I thought, I'm sure this is the episode Amanda didn't like. So, yeah.
I do like the car, but it didn't work for me. I just didn't like seeing it from that point of view.
Fair enough.
That's fine. That's fair enough. Why didn't you like that episode, Amanda, then? A bit more depth.
It just felt a bit like one of the types of shows where, like, where you find the footage on the camera rather than from the car, and you just felt of watching it through a camera sort of thing, like Blair Witch or something like that.
No, that's fair. That's fair play, don't you? So, no, that's fair play. Now, interesting bit of choice here for you as well is I've just realised here, looking at the guest stars in this episode. Um, do either of you two watch WWE?
No.
Well, one of their wrestlers was in an episode called Beyond the Mat. And yeah, one of the wrestlers in it plays Harley, based a guy called The Miz, Mike Mizin, who was kidnapped by his fellow wrestlers. Gunnar Lawless is working for Crossroads Demons, who's collecting souls to pay for his own nest egg because of the appearance of the darkness and Lucifer's return. I saw that and I thought that's a strange episode as well. So anyway, so yeah, let's move on. Okay, Amanda, what is you're going to give
I
this
think my
episode?
camera's frozen. Oh, hold on, I'm back now.
Right, okay, that's fine. Okay, Amanda. What are you going to give this season 11 out of 12?
I'm gonna give it 7 3/4.
Oh, is that a slight improvement over the last two then,
Yeah,
is it?
yeah.
Beth?
I'm actually gonna give it a 6. because
Oh,
I know we've not really like delved we've not really delved into it in great detail, but I think there's some really good standalone episodes, like, you know, the ones we've been talking about. The wrestling episode was really good. I really enjoyed the wrestling episode. Like there are some great standalone episodes, but because I think there's also one with the with Jodie and Claire, which is always nice. I love seeing the girls, but I thought overall I hated the Amara storyline. Like, I'm sorry to say it, but I just thought like I just thought she was a really like boring big bad. Like, I just didn't like the idea of God having a sister and she's meant to be evil, and then it's like she's the darkness because God's the light. It just felt a bit, you know, if you're gonna do a big bad who's meant to be kind of more powerful than God, or like as powerful than God, then I think you need to do like one of like, I mean, they've had other gods in Supernatural before, so why don't you do somebody like Zeus or someone like that who, you know, might be like another god that is, you know, already known. That's why do you need to kind of invent this figure? And it just, I don't know, like I hated the idea of her like growing up from a baby randomly. Like what was that about? Like she randomly kind of started as a baby and grew into an adult, even though she's technically already an adult. It was just a bit, and the whole weird thing of Dean, like, apparently has this kind of strange romance with her, and it's just like, it was a bit odd. I just didn't get, like, it was completely detached from the rest of the storyline, really. I liked
no, fair
Lucifer
point.
coming back. That's always nice, but
I'll be intrigued to know what you think of the alternative Lucifer that comes into season 12 in a minute, because I do remember this next bit. So, but yeah, let's cover season 12 off to wrap up this part 3 then. We've got loads of time spare today there. So let's move on to season number 12 then, okay? Now, season number 12 was premiered on October the 13th, 2016, and concluded on May the 18th, 2017. Consisted of 23 episodes and had two new showrunners here, Andrew Dabb and Robert Singer. And the season follows Sam and Dean dealing with the resurrection of their mother. I said 40 about Samantha Smith, while trying to stop Lucifer from creating a Nephilim, while also being the target of a faction called the British Men of Letters. Obviously, this season starred Gerard Jensen and Misha as Maine. Also had Mark Shepardin as against Crowley, Mark Perugino as Lucifer as well. Now, I have to ask you both first of all. I'm going to ask you about this because I think I do remember this very well. How did you both feel about Rick Springfield as the rock star as Lucifer?
Oh, that
Beth,
was quite funny. I'm glad it didn't last for ages, but it was funny while it lasted.
what did you
yeah,
think,
I don't
Beth?
know. I wasn't sure because I think like, oh, what's his name? I keep forgetting his name. Um, the guy who normally plays Lucifer,
Mark Perugino or
Mark
something, yeah.
Pellegrino,
Yeah, so
yeah.
yeah.
Mark Pellegrino. He
Yeah.
plays him so well. I just felt it felt a bit jarring to have somebody else playing the character. I know, obviously, like in Supernatural, they're not, you know, human. They're not tied to their body. They're possessing the body, so, you know, they can possess somebody else and have a different body and everything and look completely different. But it felt very odd to have somebody else playing the same character. And I mean, I thought it was a funny storyline, and obviously like led to the whole storyline of him, you know, eventually possessing the president and impregnating somebody, and you know, and that's how a Nephilim is eventually born. But so I got what they were trying to. I just wasn't sure if it 100% worked, but it did lead to some funny moments. So
Yeah, I remember as well because I think it was I got into this season after season 13. So basically, I remember Amanda getting me just about to the end of this, just where it started. And I remember you going through that, man. I thought, oh, this is brilliant with Rick Springfield. It was just weird. But you're right, it's not something I think they could have done for a full season. Oh, God, no. And I don't think
yeah.
you probably wanted to do it that long. But yeah, it was good fun. Amanda, take us back in time then to your favourite episode in season 12.
Yeah, so I really liked First Blood, and this was after they got arrested for attempting to kill the president, because obviously it's Lucifer. You can't really say, oh, it's the devil, because that's just going to make it look even crazier. And they escaped from this government detention facility, and the people that have got them there are chasing them and saying, "Oh, you're trapped out here with us." And Dean's like, "We're not trapped out here with you. You're trapped out here with us."
Yeah, it's so definitely so. Okay, Beth, over to you.
I there were a couple of episodes in this series that really stood out. I think this is one of the nice things about Supernatural, even when it goes a little bit downhill in terms of like the overall quality and overarching storyline. I think there's always some really good standalone episodes. Like I loved in this series, there was an episode called Lily Sunder Has Some Regrets, which is basically about this woman called Lily Sunder who she kind of struck up a bit of a romance with an angel back in like the 1800s, but then he became obsessed with her, and when she kind of left him for another angel, or she kind of sought the company of this other angel for protection, he came along and killed her daughter, her innocent human daughter, who he claimed to the other angels was a Nephilim, and because he wanted to get revenge on her because she didn't fancy him back. So he killed her daughter, and he's a bit of a human hater. But the reason why I loved this episode was because it basically was. I mean, there's been Destiel heavy episodes throughout the series. There's been a lot of different episodes where the relationship between Dean and Cass has kind of progressed. But what I loved about this episode was that it was almost kind of like a parallel of the relationship between Dean and Cass, because the angel, I've forgotten his name. I think I think it might be Isaiah or something like that. The evil angel. There's a moment where he's talking to Cass when Cass finds out the truth that he killed an innocent human child, and he's like, I cured myself of my human weakness. And now I'm going to cure you of yours. And then he kind of looks pointedly at Dean. And then there's a whole kind of implication that Dean is Cass's human weakness, just as Isaiah was in love with a human. Cass is also in love with a human, and there's also a great scene where Cass and Dean are kind of bickering like an old married couple in the Impala, and it almost felt like a real kind of like progression of their relationship almost, this episode, without them officially being a couple. It felt like we were kind of witnessing a couple, so it very much kind of like solidified that relationship for me. And kind of, I just don't see how you could watch that episode and not kind of look at these characters and think, it's obvious what the writers are trying to do here. Despite what they might claim afterwards. I mean, this is a relationship, and I think it's a shame that they weren't more explicit about it earlier on in some ways, because obviously you can interpret it in different ways, but I thought this was a very heavily coded episode, in terms of no, this is kind of a couple. However, unofficially there clearly is something going on between these characters,
Yeah,
because of all the parallels.
I think you did right with that one, Junty Beth, because it's like watching at that stage. Amanda was kept saying to me, Amanda was dropping hints to me all the time. Man, did you remember this? Saying, "Oh, you can see these hints are going on. These are going to be a couple." But it's it's one of those ones where I think they dropped all the hints, and we'll come up to the end of it when we get season 15 shortly. But you're right, I agree with you on that one. It was definitely, there's something building, but they haven't really real slow burner definitely with that. So, Amanda, what was your favourite episode of this season?
I've had my first. Yeah, I've done my favorite one. Yeah.
All right, that's why I'm getting mixed up now. So, okay, give us the one that you think's a lot. Okay, I've sworn. So, give us the one you think is a bag of shite, right?
Okay, so I really hated the episode called "The One You've Been Waiting For," and this is where the Hitler's soul is trapped in a pocket watch from the 1930s,
Oh God, I was
and
reading
they
this.
want
Yeah,
they want to bring him back in the body of one of his ancestors. And I just didn't see the point of it all. And then it just seemed to be building up to the fact that Dean could joke at the end and say he killed Hitler.
yeah. I was reading that. It's one of those ones, isn't it, where it's like it's a one-off, an improvised gag by Dean, dragged out for 40 minutes. Yeah, I was reading that then. I thought, yeah. It's sometimes when you do these, like it's you look at the Wikipedia page, sometimes they have like a good 3 or 4 paragraphs on an episode. This one's got about 7 lines. Yeah, so you see what they think of this one anyway. So, Beth.
I actually quite liked that. I know what you mean. I thought it was the storyline was a bit ridiculous. Like I'll give you that, but I think it was worth it just to see Dean kill Hitler. I just thought it was hilarious. Like because it's like I watched after the episode. I watched like a YouTube compilation of Dean's like celebrating that he's killed Hitler. And it's just like it's so funny because it's just like every 5 minutes it's like, did I mention I killed Hitler? And like all of this, it's like I think I deserve some pie. I killed Hitler. By the way, I killed Hitler. It's like it's really stupid, but it's just like one of those running gags because I think it mentions it in later series as well. So it's quite funny because they keep coming back to it and it's like and then there's one I think there's one episode where Sam kind of like throws his arms up. He's like, oh, did you know I killed Hitler? And Sam's just like, it's like again.
Yeah, I think
I
it.
quite enjoyed it.
I think it shows really what was really good. Jensen Ackles is really good at with this series. His improvisation. And he's got the timings of a stand-up comic, really, hasn't he? Just like you've seen all the outtakes like I have, and it's like there was
Mm.
quite a famous one day when he was lip syncing to something on Baby, wasn't it? And you showed me this,
Oh
Amanda.
yeah, Eye of the Tiger.
Yeah.
Every time I hear that song now, I just think of him.
And that's what he shows like. Obviously, the other guys, obviously, is you see a lot of fan conferences stuff. There's banter going around. Have you seen in the fan conference ones, Beth, between Misha and Jensen?
Yeah, I've seen like various stuff on YouTube. I don't know if I've watched the exact
Yeah.
thing
Yeah,
you're
there's a number
referring
where
to.
they're always baiting each other on stage, they are, and the crowd just absolutely love it. That's why.
They are funny.
They are funny, those two. So, right, I think, have I missed anything off here then, or should we get on to marking this episode?
I'm ready to mark him.
Have you've said your least favorite episode, Beth, haven't you? Or am I getting mixed up here?
Yeah, no, I haven't actually, but I
Ah,
didn't
go for it.
really have a
Mm.
didn't really have a least favorite episode. It wasn't my favorite series, but I thought there were some really strong episodes. The other one I really liked was regarding Dean, which was when he gets it was another good like standalone one where he gets cursed by a witch, and he starts to like lose his memory. So it's basically kind of a bit of an allegory for somebody without timers basically, and it was sort of showing like the tragedy of him kind of like losing himself and losing his memories. But it's just like what really got to me was the final scene of the episode, when he gets his memories back, but obviously that kind of with his memories comes the weight of the world settling back on his shoulders, kind of quite literally, because they're the guys that saved the world. So it's almost like getting his memories back, although obviously like you want him to get his memories back, it's also a bit of a burden because while he's lost his memories, he's been really kind of carefree, and he's got to sort of experience life without any worries for once in his life. He's not got all of this knowledge of all of the stuff that is riding on them, and he's and there's a beautiful scene at the very end of the episode where it's he's riding one of those like mechanical bulls in a pub, like having a good time, and it's got this beautiful song. I think it's called Broomstick Cowboy, and it's basically like it's kind of a song about growing up, and sort of losing your innocence. And it's like there's a line in the song and it's like ride on little broomstick cowboy, ride on while you can. For soon you'll be a dreadful thing, my son, you'll be a man. And it's like it's I just thought it was so sort of poetic because he is a character that's kind of had such a troubled life. And I just thought I shed a tear at that song, just kind of watching him have a nice time, and then it all comes crashing down again.
Yeah,
It's
completely. Now, obviously, before we mark it, I have to ask you both. Obviously, this was quite a pivotal season, this really, because the last episode was probably that of season 12. This was probably the most bloodiest last episode I've seen in the full series to this stage. And obviously, people are wondering, this obviously, first of all, has Mark Sheppard leaving the series altogether. And obviously, then you end up with, obviously, Mary manages to send Lucifer back to alternative reality, but he drags her with him, leaving both trapped as the rift closes. And while Dean mourns Cassiel's death as well, Sam discovers
Again.
that again, discovers Kelly has died also in childbirth and finds her son newborn, but having the appearance of a teenager. Now, obviously, that was the episode all along the Watchtower. I have to ask you both, did you find that an awful amount went on in that last episode?
Yeah, but then in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking, oh, it's all right. They'll come back. They always come back.
Yeah, it's insane it was. What do you think about Beth about that? When you saw the blood count happened that last episode then?
yeah, I thought it worked because even though Cass has obviously died many times before, obviously we see Cass get kind of stabbed by Lucifer with the angel blade, and it feels almost like it's going to be a very final death. So you kind of, I suppose at the time when it was airing, you wouldn't have kind of known for certain that he was going to come back. So that did feel like a very final death. And then also I thought they did obviously Cass does end up coming back, but it felt quite final at the time. And then I think Crowley's death was done really well because I love the fact that he went on his own terms, because Crowley is one of those characters that you kind of love to hate and hate to love. And, he's one of those, he's a bit of a Snape type character because you're never quite sure whose side he's on until the very end. But then obviously in the end, he kind of shows his true colours because he sacrifices himself to save the boys. And it was actually so tragic because his final he kind of does this speech to Lucifer of, I hate you, you humiliated me, and all of this, and you're kind of thinking, where is this going? And then he kind of turns around and just says a final bye, boys, and that's like his final words, and he sacrifices himself for them in the end, which I love the fact that he went on his own terms. They were never able to kill him, but he in the end he died for them anyway, and that just kind of sums up, how much he really cared about them underneath it all. Which I just thought was really sweet. It's a
Yeah,
shame that Mark Sheppard felt like he had to leave though, because they kind of forced him off the show apparently. But
yeah, I've had the same. And are you aware of that one, man? Sam? Obviously, I know he's well noted stated that he left on bad terms with a number of
Yeah, I
people
know he
behind the
wasn't
scenes.
happy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame that really, because I know there was talk around they're going to bring him back in, obviously towards the big finale of season 15. But lockdown fucked that one up so slightly. So let's hope for season 16 and he comes back in flying colours then, right? But yeah, okay. Amanda, is there anything you want to add more about the finale of that
No,
season?
no.
Okay, then we better let you ladies mark this, and hadn't we, before we take our break?
I'll give it an 8 out of 10.
Beth?
I'll give it maybe a 6.5, 7. Better than series 11, but still not as anywhere near as strong as the early seasons.
Yeah, that's a fair point. So, no, fair point indeed, and both of you there. So, said I came in properly in season 13, so I think I just about caught up by season 12 I had. So, yeah, I know. Okay, yes, folks, we're taking a break now. Let all go take a quick 5 minute, I would say, drink break, and we were back with 3 more seasons to go. Thank you, Beth, and thank you, Amanda. We will see you all in 2 shakes of the dice.
Not the TV guide.
Not the TV guide.